Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Funnel Trade. We're nearly 7 weeks after the release of Innistrad Remastered at this point. Of course, it had the serialized Edgar Markov card, the only serialized card in that expansion, and numbered up to 500. I had made a video about a year ago about how WotC had released around 130,000 serialized cards in the first 18 months of them having them in regular randomized products. And at the time, I had said they really have to rein that in. They have to lower it a lot. And since then, they really have. So, Mark, thanks for listening. And what they've started doing more recently is putting single serialized cards numbered to 500, or in the case of something like Lord of the Rings Special Edition, they had 20 different serialized cards, but each one was numbered to 100. And so they've really cut down on the number of serialized cards that they're producing. That's really going to help because there's only so much money in the collector market for Magic that's going to be willing to flow into serialized cards. And if they make fewer and fewer serialized cards, that money can stay more concentrated in each average copy, and it'll help prop up sealed box prices. So we are going to take an updated look at how that Edgar Markov card is doing in the market right now. And of course, the last time we looked at this a little over a month ago, it was running about 2,500 in some cases, and some cases all the way back up to 3,000. Now, when it first started selling, about 3,500 was the normal price. So first, we're going to look over on eBay at cards for sale currently. Of course, a PSA 10 at $7,000. And yeah, I mean, that's probably a reasonable price. If you grade this and it gets a 10, go ahead, throw it up there for $7,000 and see if it moves at that price. Probably not many are going to grade a 10, but we see several of these up here at around the $3,000 mark, a 3,200, and these are buy it nows, which is interesting. You will demand a higher price on a buy it now because there's no competition. You can simply step in and buy it. So to see that the buy it now price is holding there around 3,000 that people are willing to list them for. Of course, the proof of life picture, I always wonder why people do this. They write their account name and the date on the picture as if we don't believe they actually have the card. $4,000 copy from some other grading company. 3232, 3,100. 3,250. Here's a PSA 9 for 4,500, 3,000, 31, 3,000, and 32. This one's actually an auction starting at 3,200. Yeah, that's not going to happen when you can buy it now for less than that. And then I think there was, one more copy down here because they did not put the word cereal in the title. So 3,200. So we can see that nearly all of these copies that are available right now are between that 3,000 and 3,200 range. I mean, that means that it means that the market is happy with that price. Nobody's having to go significantly under that in order to sell it. And then you have a couple of the PSA copies that are quite a bit more that are being asked. Now, over on TCGPlayer, current lowest 2,750. And there are 7 copies for sale from that $2,750 up to $4,500. That's a bit ambitious, but with the couple of serialized Doctors that I got when I was opening so many Doctor Who collector boxes, that's basically what I did. I priced them pretty high, and I think I've sold 1 out of 3 of them so far. So I'm patient, and on something like this, I would be very willing to just price it a bit too high and wait for the market to catch up to me. There was one additional sale since the last time we looked at this on here, all the way down at $2,500. But you see a lot of the sales that actually closed, $3,200 to $3,600. And that seems to be a pretty reasonable price. Now, back over on eBay, we're going to look at the actual sold listings going all the way back to January 23rd. At $3,500, and we see these early ones clustering around $3,500, a $4,500 buy it now that they got on January 27th. And then I think what we're going to see, if my memory serves, some of these falling below $3,000 for a bit, down to $2,800, $3,000, a $2,500 on an auction. But again, you will expect to get the auctions cheaper. Another $2,600 on an auction, and then several more auctions in the $2,600, $2,700 range, all the way down to $2,400 on an auction. into the 26s. A 3,500 buy it now. That's a little out of place. Followed, about a week later by a $2,700 buy it now. And then we see the most recent sales, 3,000 and two 2750 sales. So we see that price actually completing sales on eBay at 2750. Lots of ask prices on the first tab we looked at around $3,000 right now. So I'm very surprised to see the card is holding that well, and that really that's really a good sign for the price of the sealed Innistrad Remaster collector boxes going forward, because if there is a potential $3,000 lottery ticket within those boxes, then that's going to help hold up the price of the boxes. I mean, that was really what happened with the Lord of the Rings special edition cards. There were 2,000 different serialized cards printed for that release, as opposed to the 500 printed for Innistrad Remastered. But those 2,000 cards, they were the serialized movie poster variants, and they were fetching $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a card. And so here's the reality. There are 1/4 as many Edgar Markov serialized cards as there were Lord of the Rings special edition serialized movie poster cards. And right now, they're selling on average way better at higher prices than the serialized movie poster cards did. So what we should expect is that at approximately equal point in their lives, the contribution from the serialized cards to the Innistrad Remaster collector box prices should be much higher than what the movie poster cards contributed to the Lord of the Rings special edition boxes. In other words, I think I'm very bullish on the Innistrad Remaster collector boxes, given how strong the actual completed sale prices of these Edgar Markov serialized cards are, even almost 7 weeks after release. And, we saw with the original release of Brothers War serialized cards, I remember that one well because I really followed the data on that closely for several months afterwards. And what happened there was that the serialized card prices for the completed transactions on eBay fell about 40 to 60% over the first couple of months, because there were so many of the cards and a lot of them just weren't that desirable. Now, one last tab that I had open here, I went over to PSA and I pulled the population report for this card just to see how many had been graded. They have seen 14 copies, 3 got 10, and 6 got a 9, and one of them somehow got a 5. Good job, WotC, on that quality control. So, looks pretty good for this card and for the contribution that the card will have to the Innistrad Remaster box prices. Of course, we're seeing other things in the market right now, which is general weakness in the Magic market after a 2-year bull run, and general softness in the wider economy, the stock market, the Bitcoin market, and all those other things that kind of sit upstream of this TCG market that we deal in here. So generally, we're seeing a slowdown, and I think that's having a very negative effect on the Innistrad Remastered boxes. Also, just in general, the TCG expansion life cycle you're going to expect is going to pull those box prices down a little bit for a while after release. And of course, the collector boxes are their own animal because they get one printing and no more. So they really are scarce from the moment they're introduced into the market. But on the long timeline, I expect this box to do really well. I know I've said in past months that my expectation for it was that it would be kind of like a Fallout collector box. It would kind of sit there at around $1,000. It wouldn't quite be like Lord of the Rings Special Edition. It wasn't going to be as great as that, but it was going to do better than most of the rest of them. And I still think that's the case. I think this is going to be an above average collector's box price-wise in the long term. We just have to wait to get to that long term. So you know what I'll do? I'll put this on the Kanban board for 6 months from today. We'll take one more look at it at that point, and we'll see what the boxes have done relative to the rest of the market. Maybe we're in a recession by then. Maybe the stock market's down another 1,000 points for the S&P 500 and everything's terrible, and I'm scooping up these boxes for $200 each. Or hell, maybe they're $1,000 by then and everything's great. Who knows? Let me know what you think, guys. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.